What's up, THS? I'm Mrs. Smith from the library. Our theme this week is It's Complicated, and these are my top three. Way back in 2007, when some of y'all were actual babies, Facebook rolled out this option for relationship status, and it was called It's Complicated. And I don't think that there's anything that would make me more interested in somebody's personal business than when I see them change their relationship status to It's Complicated on Facebook. Usually there's a story there, and most of the time I want to know what it is. And that's kind of what we're dealing with the characters in the books that I want to talk to you about this week. That romantic attraction is definitely at the heart of their stories. It's moving the plot forward. But I would call these books romance light. Nobody's really riding off into the sunset, but there's definitely something going on there, and it's just sometimes a little bit more complicated. Now, if 17-year-old Courtney Cooper has a Facebook, I really couldn't tell you what his relationship status field would say. He is one of three narrating characters in the book that I want to tell you about. It is by YA phenom Nic Stone, and it is called Odd One Out. So Courtney Cooper is a likable guy. Everyone just calls him Coop. He's a good student, solid basketball player, and all the girls love him. He has no problem getting a date, but eventually his relationships tend to just fizzle out because the girls that he dates become uncomfortable with how close he is to his best friend Jupiter. Jupiter is another narrating character in this book. She's a lesbian. She's been out since she can remember. And since they were tiny, she and Coop have been the closest friends. She really struggles to understand why all these girls who date Coop are tripping off of her because she likes girls. Except maybe she also likes Coop. She doesn't really know. A third narrating character comes into the picture. This is a new girl at school named Ray. She and Jupiter become really fast friends and hit it off immediately. And at the same time, she starts developing this romantic relationship with Coop. And that's where things start to get really complicated. When you invest your time into this story, you're not just getting like flat, stereotypical, one-dimensional characters. As somebody who hangs out with teenagers for a living, I think that the way that they talk to each other, engage with each other in this book, feels really authentic and real. This book is written by a mom, so it's responsible and age appropriate, but it's very honest about young people, the way that they fall in love, how they learn how to begin a relationship, and Nic Stone just doesn't pull any punches in this book. So if you would like to know what happens with Coop, Jupiter, and Ray, you need to check out Odd One Out. For our next pick, we've got to go back in time about 80 years before Facebook was even invented, back when the wealthy would disclose their relationship status in the newspaper. And to call the characters in this book wealthy would be quite the understatement. This book's been made into about a half dozen movies. It's on every college-bound reading list. It might be one of the best novels ever written about some of the worst people on the face of the earth. It's by F. Scott Fitzgerald, and it is called The Great Gatsby. The Great Gatsby is set in New York in the early 1920s, and it is told through the perspective of Nick Carraway. Nick wants us to think that he is a good guy, so the first thing he tells us is how when he was a kid, his dad taught him not to judge other people too harshly because we have no idea what they may have been through in their lives. And then immediately after telling us this anecdote, he goes on to spill the entire tea about his cousin Daisy, her loveless and dysfunctional marriage to Tom, a wealthy, connected guy that he went to college with, and then her affair with Jay Gatsby, the super rich, super mysterious guy who lives in the biggest house in town and throws these lavish, eccentric parties every night of the week. The events in this novel are what take place when you have way too much money, too much time on your hands, and your moral compass is just like a little bit broken. And Nick Carraway gives us every hairy detail. He is shady, he's petty. If the Real Housewives of the West Egg was a thing 100 years ago, he would definitely come and host the reunion special. One of the great things about this book is that you can go back and read it for a second or third time, and you might feel a different way about the characters compared to the way that you felt about it on your first read. And I think that's one of the reasons why we are still talking about this book 100 years after it was published. So that is The Great Gatsby. It's by F. Scott Fitzgerald, and you can request your copy of it today. Maybe a good alternate theme for this video would be teenagers doing the most, because that is really what's happening with the teenager in this book that I'm about to tell you about next. You guys know that I have a special place in my heart for dark, twisty, scandalous YA lit. So take a deep breath, brace yourself, and I'm going to try and figure out how to tell you about this crazy book called This Darkness Mine by Mindy McGinnis. Okay, so Sasha Stone, high school senior, first chair clarinet, on her way to a prestigious music observatory, and she's got the boyfriend to match. Her boyfriend, whose name I don't even remember, spoiler alert, it doesn't matter, is also headed to an Ivy League school. He's fine, whatever, but like I said, I don't even remember his name, so there's that. I'm not the only one who thinks Sasha's boyfriend is boring. Sasha herself finds her boyfriend boring. In fact, she is bored with everything that's not one of the following two things. First, this smoking hot boy at school named Isaac, who has been flirting with her, but also perhaps stalking her. And two, trying to communicate with her twin sister who died in the womb before she could be born. Maybe I should have started with the twin sister thing. Right, so at the beginning of the book, Sasha finds out that she's a twin, and her twin sister died in the womb before they could be born, and Sasha thinks that maybe something weird is going on with her twin sister, trying to communicate with her, maybe possibly like animating her body as she sleeps. I don't know, it's weird. This book is very weird. This is like Fight Club for teenagers. It's like Tyler Durden and Amy Dunn from Gone Girl had a baby and her name was Sasha Stone. Mindy McGinnis is always going to give us these strong, awesome female characters who just kind of spin off the rails in like these wonderfully scandalous ways. And This Darkness Mine takes that all the way up to 11. If you find yourself in your homeroom now thinking, Mrs. Smith, how am I going to ever choose between these three books? They all sound awesome. I have great news for you. You can put a hold on all three of them. I will bring the first available to your homeroom perhaps today, and you can start reading them right away. If you would like to read maybe something else and you're not sure what you're looking for, please send me an email. I would love to help you find the right book. And of course, you can return those library books to the bin in your homeroom. I'll bring them back downstairs and check them in for you. Have a great week, guys. Thank you again for listening. I will be back soon with more book recommendations for you later. Take care. Bye-bye.